Hey ladies, happy Saturday. I'm your host, Sherry. Cool. And welcome to the Shit Show. Tonight I thought I'd talk about, kind of get us caught up since last week was a little heavy. Thought I'd go into post-divorce and, dating and then eventually getting to where I am now. So let's see. So last week we stopped and so went through divorce, about 34-ish. Obviously, it was pretty difficult going through it, but taking that step and kind of regaining like who you are as a person, as an individual, is something that I feel was for myself very helpful, and I learned so much about myself, and I became very independent, and I became somebody that I really wanted to be. And so anyway, so I divorced about 34. I had 3 under 3 at that time. And I really, after going through it, I really knew that, I was never going to get married again. I never wanted to have children anymore. Besides my own. But I just wanted to kind of regain of who I was and kind of learn what I did in the relationship wrong, and who I was as an individual. And I really think that I put a lot of time and effort into that. And so besides going through all of the emotions of going through a divorce and figuring out that, I really gained a deep bond with my girlfriends. I leaned on them on the lonely nights. There was a lot of those. But the thing with my girlfriends is that during that time, there was also a few that were also going through hard times or divorces, and we all had kids, and we were trying to figure out like who we are. And it was actually a really unique time. We spent probably, we all kind of scheduled our kids with this spouse, the ex-spouses at the same time. So we had time off to just be us. And, going through that, all of us girls, there was, usually about 6 of us. We started going to the bars, and we started going to clubs again. And all of that is amazing, because as a woman, when you're in a relationship that you're kind of relaxed in, you kind of get to the point where, the things are the way they are. But then you open this whole nother world of dating, and you haven't done it before. So, at that time, I was introduced to dating websites, and, that was really the kind of new way of meeting people. So, me and a couple of my girlfriends, we made up some dating profiles. And the thing is that with dating profiles, looking through them, I always wanted to be very honest about like who I was and what I looked like. I didn't want to say that I was a 5'3", 100-pound girl and then show up at these meets or whatever you're going to do, and have, people, see you. So when I was going on these dating websites, you have, you get hit up by men, and they tell you one thing and you think, oh, they're cute, and then you meet up with them and they're literally, those pictures were probably taken 20 years ago. So it was a whole new world to kind of open. I think the biggest thing for me was going onto these websites. I think a lot of the same people are on those sites. And when you have somebody new on there, I think they kind of realize that you're new on there, whatever. So I was talking to, but it becomes almost like a full-time job, because you're constantly, you have to post on there, and you have to do bios, and you have to, answer people and things like that. And so I was getting hit up, and at first I was just like, oh my God, this is like a whole new world. This is awesome. And so at first, I was absolutely, you give out your phone number, and you say, hey, let's just text. I don't want to be on this, website or whatever, because I was either, having my kids, or I was working, or just doing whatever. But I think the funniest thing was that you would talk to these guys that seemed pretty normal. They looked normal or whatever, but within literally like one or two conversations, it's going to, so do you, take it in the ass or whatever. And it was just like, what the hell? It was just this crazy kind of freak thing that was happening. And then, so you kind of figure out, okay, maybe we just stay on the dating websites. We don't give out our numbers so much. It was fun. It was exciting. It was interesting. It definitely kept me busy. The amount of dick pics that I received was insane. Which I never really understood that, because unless, for me, unless I was in a relationship with somebody and we were exchanging pictures, then that was one thing. But I think seeing strangers that you've literally talked to maybe 2 or 3 times, and they're already sending those, it's a little cringy, but to each his own. So anyway, I shared this journey with the girls. We went on girls trips. We went to a lot of bars. We spent quality time at the Saddle Rack in Fremont. And it was the whole, we didn't have our kids at the time. They were with the other parent. And, it was the whole thing. You get to get ready, and you get to pregame, and you get to go, and you just, you drink and you dance and you have a good time with your girlfriends. And it was an amazing time. And then when we had our kids, we would have barbecues at different people's houses. And, I just really fell into loving my friends and loving who I was becoming. And when I was by myself, I did learn who I was alone and what I really wanted in a mate or a boyfriend at the time. Again, was never going to get married. But I did do I took the time to figure out who I was and who I wanted to be and who I wanted to spend time with and what I was not going to put up with. So for myself, having that year to feel the heartbreak and loneliness, but also to connect with girlfriends and go out and do my thing was amazing. I went on a few dates, and there was a couple good ones that I have to share. So there was this one gentleman, and as I say, I was very honest about what I looked like and who I was as a person. And I thought that pretty much at this time, this was kind of early on, that he was also, were people in general were honest on these sites. So anyway, so I met up with this gentleman, again, very naive. Let's just remember that. Had not dated in 25 plus years or whatever. So he had told me, again, let's just remember that I was very new to all of this. So no red flags. But I remember I was talking to this gentleman, older gentleman. He was, a few years older than me, and he said that he lived in Arizona or something like that, and that he came into California a lot on business, and he was single. He had kids a little bit older, and that he wanted to meet up. And so, I was like, okay, this sounds normal, right? So I had been talking to him for a couple weeks, on the app, and ended up texting. And so he said that, hey, I'm going to be staying at this hotel. Why don't we meet at the hotel bar area, and we'll meet there, and then we can go out to dinner after. And I was like, okay, that's great. And I had made it a point to say, I'm not going to be going to your room. I'm not going to be doing all that. So I felt like I had made the foundation that it was going to be a normal type date. So anyway, I get ready. I'm excited. He's older. He seems like he has it together. And so we meet at the bar in this hotel. And we have a drink. Very nice gentleman. Definitely older than what he said. He had said that at that time he was like 38, 39, definitely like 45 to 48. But anyway, that's never here than that. But anyway, so you would think that a red flag. No, not me. So met him, stayed at the bar, had a few drinks, had some appetizers, great conversation. And then he said, hey, why don't we go ahead and go to dinner? And I said, that's a great idea, because at this time I was drinking a lot of Patron at that time. So that was kicking in. So I was like, okay. So I said, well, he said, I just have to go up to my room, get a jacket, and then we'll go ahead and go. And I was like, okay, that's a great idea. I said, you know what? If you just need to get a jacket, I said, can I just run up to your room and go pee? No big deal. And he was like, yeah, absolutely. So we walk up, we're talking, no big deal. And so we go in there, and, nothing weird. I was very comfortable. I had been there for a couple hours, So we go up to the room, and he says, I just need to grab my jacket. And I said, great. I said, I'm just going to go to the bathroom. So I'm in the bathroom. I'm probably in the bathroom for, I don't know, we're going to say 3 minutes. And so I come out, and I put my purse on my shoulder, like, we're going to go out. And I walk out of the bathroom, ladies. Oh, okay, lady. So lady, my puppy just smashed the shot glass. That's fine. Anyway, so I walk out of the bathroom, and this gentleman is completely naked, laying I wish I could sprawled out on the bed, like completely. Hairy chest, cock and balls out, just laying there with it in his hand. And he's like, hey, you ready to go? And I'm like, what the actual fuck is happening? And he's like, well, I said I needed to get my jacket. I'm like, yeah, thought that. He's like, oh, that's kind of code word for let's go upstairs. I'm like, okay. So I stood there for a whole 30 seconds. I could not believe what was happening. He started playing the fiddler, and I backed out slowly, because I thought this is going to get real freaky or I'm going to get murdered. So backed out real slow, grabbed the door handle and ran out. I'm halfway laughing and halfway completely mortified. And I'm trying to call Holly, because, obviously it's my lifeline. I got to figure out where the fuck what is happening. So I'm running out and I'm running through the parking lot, and he is now standing on the balcony with, it's not a G-string, but it's like it's a banana hammock, and he's screaming my name. And he doesn't understand why I'm running away. Obviously, I get in my car, I call Holly, and Holly obviously just laughs her ass off. So, yeah, that was one really good one. Another one, we won't go into too many, but another one was months later, because I was real gun shy after that. Another one was gentleman wanted to meet me down, because obviously I was never going to a hotel bar again, obviously. So the next one, talked to for a little while, and very handsome gentleman, my age, and he said that he wanted to meet me downtown San Jose somewhere, like San Jose Bar and Grill or something like that. So we went, I went down there, and I got there early, and I sat at the bar this time. And I had a rough day for some reason. And I was sitting at the bar, and I remember the bartender said, he started talking to me, and he was saying, oh, what brings you here, blah, 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 normal bartender talk. And I was telling him, well, it's first date, last one was real awkward. And he's like, oh, okay. He's like, well, you know what? I'm going to give you some shots on the house. Just loosen you up so you're not so nervous. He's like, I can tell that you're real nervous. And I said, yeah. I see. So I had a couple shots, a couple doubles, let's be honest. And so I started telling him about the past date. Well, he thought that was the best story ever. And he said, so what's different about this guy? I'm like, oh my God, this guy seems real normal. And I'm ready for normal after the shit show of the past of my life. So he said, okay. So I had a few drinks. I think he was supposed to get there at like 6, and by this time it was like 6:15. And so I was just like, well, okay, I guess I'm gonna have one more shot and then I'm gonna go. I guess I got stood up, it is what it is, right? And then all of a sudden the bartender, because I was, drinking a Diet Coke, because I was like, obviously I need to drive home. And he slid me a double, and he's like, yeah, you're probably going to want to take this. And I was like, why? And he goes, well, I'm just going to say, I think your Prince Charming walked in. And I was like, oh, okay. As he's laughing, ladies. So I'm a little taken back by it. And I was like, why is this guy being such an ass? Like, whatever. Well, what I can say is in his bio, super honest, because he honestly said that he loved like 70s music and he loved like the 70s era. And I was like, well, yeah, we were born there, so whatever. So anyway, so I turn around on my bar stool and I see this gentleman walk in. And what I can tell you is that he took the 70s to a whole new level. So he had polyester tight ass pants on that were bell bottoms, no lie. He had a silk shirt on, unbuttoned down, mid chest, and some gold chains. Holy shit. And I was like, no, God, this is not happening. This is not the dude for me. Oh, yeah. He walked in. He's like, hey, what's going on, girl? You know, such and such. And I went, oh, my God. So as he sat down, we talked for a whole 10 minutes. I had, in between that, I had texted Cindy and Holly, and I was like, somebody please call me to tell me that they have an emergency, because that's what us girls do. So they did that, and I was like, oh my God, my friend's dog died. I have to go. So sorry. So he's like, let me walk you to your car. And I'm like, oh, okay. So he walks me to the car, and I am literally almost running. And anybody that knows me knows I don't run. So get to the car. I'm trying to get into the car, and he is trying to hug and kiss me, and I'm like, okay, thank you so much. Yeah, so dating was very interesting, to say the least. I was just so happy that my girlfriends were there, because I could go over there. I could go to my friend Carrie Ann's house. I could go to Holly's house, and I could just tell them everything that was going on. And after a couple of these, oh, and the last one I think after that was there was a gentleman, and he said, let's meet at the Elephant Bar and Grill. And I said, okay, that sounds great. You know, by this time it was getting a little bit awkward and kind of old, but you know, you still want to find somebody to take away that loneliness. So I was still dating here and there. I met this gentleman and at the Elephant Bar and Grill, and we were sitting in the bar, had a couple drinks, and you know, it was about 7, and we had been there probably an hour and a half. And I said, okay, well, do you want to go ahead and should we get a table? And he's like, he straight up looked at me in my face and said, for what? And I was like, well, aren't we gonna eat dinner? And he's like, yeah, I don't do that. He said, I don't waste my money on chicks for dates. So unless this goes for, you know, 5 or 6 meet and greets, as he called it, I don't buy anybody dinner. And I was like, okay, I mean, I could pay for myself. And he's like, yeah, no, I just do meet and greets. I'm, you know, really popular on the dating sites. And I was like, oh, okay. So I said, all right, well, that's awesome to know. I'm so glad that you're popular on the dating sites. I said, well, I've got to go to the restroom. He's like, okay. And so I got up and walked out. Yeah. So dating definitely is not for the weak. It is a lot of fun. You do need to have your girlfriends there to laugh with you and make fun with you. But also in this time, you know, I kind of was taking a break here and there. I was just kind of doing, you know, the girl thing, going to the bars, hanging out. There was, oh, lady just wants to be in the program tonight. There was a gentleman that kept hitting me up on the dating sites. Seemed very normal, but he was much younger than me. So I was like, if I am striking out with all of these that are my age or older, there's no way in hell that I am going to go out with a younger guy. Absolutely not going to happen. But this gentleman was pretty persistent. And I had ignored him for a while. So, but one night I remember I was like, you know, I think maybe a conversation would be okay. So I hit him back up on there. He hit me back up pretty quickly. We talked quite a while on DMs, and he kept asking me if I wanted to go on a date, and I always made an excuse because, you know, it just was it was just not going well. And I just, at that point in time in my life, I was probably, you know, 35-ish later, and or mid 35, and you know, it's just, I was okay with just me and my girls. It was, and my friends. Like, it was okay. But he kept asking, and so I said, all right. I told my girlfriends, I said, you know what? I think I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna just try it. So they kind of laughed, and they're like, can't wait to hear this next story. So I met this gentleman. I pulled into the parking lot of Acapulco in Santa Clara. And I remember texting him and saying, for some reason, I'm really nervous. And he texted me right back, and he said, yeah, me too. And I parked my truck, and this gentleman walked towards me. And the funny thing is that he was actually over 6 foot, like he said he was. He looked exactly the same as he did in his pictures. He was smiling. I felt extremely comfortable really quickly, which was very odd, because I was always very anxious. He walked up to my truck, and we got out. We went into Acapulco. Thought it was a little weird because you had to walk up these stairs to get into the building, and homeboy like stayed back to walk behind me. And as I'm walking up, I slowly look back, and he's just checking out my ass as he's laughing right now. Freak, right? And I'm like, really, dude? Like, what the hell? So we walk in. He does say that we're going to get dinner, but let's go ahead and get some drinks and appetizers first. So we go in, and we literally sit there for hours. And we closed that place down. We had the best time. We talked about everything. It was like we had been friends forever. It was just super easy. And I said, you know, it's late, I have to work tomorrow. And he said, same. So we walked out, and we were standing there still talking at my truck, and I was kind of leaned up against the truck. And you know, you get that vibe that somebody like wants to kiss you, and you kind of, you know, you kind of want to kiss them too, but you don't want to be too weird about it. And he wasn't like going in, you know, he just wasn't weird. He wasn't awkward. But I finally looked at him because I knew I had to go home. I knew I had to go home and go to bed because I worked. And I looked at him and I said, well, I'm not going to do it first. And as soon as those words came out, we sat in that parking lot for like 3 hours after that and made out like teenagers. And I cannot tell you how much fun we had. And we went on a date the very next day because my girls and his daughter were, you know, with the significant others. And so we went on the very next day, we, we went to Starbucks and then we got 40s and sat in a park. Um, that was 15 years ago. And no matter what, meeting Chris was something that I did not expect. And I can only tell you ladies that have been through hell and back from the past that when you're looking for something and you're learning about yourself, to look at someone that is completely different than what you're used to and what you're comfortable with, because Chris is completely different than anyone that I had ever talked to or dated. And we went through a lot of ups and downs for the first probably 4 to 5 years of our relationships. We would break up, get back together. A lot of that had to do with, we both came from toxic relationships and we didn't trust people. And we both wanted what was best for our children and for ourselves. So I think trying to figure out how to do that with somebody was really, it was hard to trust somebody with our children. And but we did it. We made it through the rough times. There were some times where we weren't seeing eye to eye, and he would go his way, I would go mine, but we always seemed to find our way back. And I'm not going to talk about it now, but my daughter got really sick with cancer, and at that time I needed someone for myself. So I began to reach out to him and speak to him on a friend level, and we became stronger and tighter than we ever were. And around, I think it was about 40 or 41, we got engaged and we got married. Beautiful wedding. The girls were all in it. An extremely happy day. One of the best days of my life. And our girls get along extremely well. Of course, they're sisters. They've been together since they were 3 to 5. So they fight like sisters, but I love that. He loves my girls like his own, and I adore his daughter. She is mine, and I would not change this journey for anything. But then we decide we need to have a baby. So I had a child at 42 years old. Do not recommend. She is the most amazing, most fun. The older girls, they adore her. She is completely in love with them. But holy shit, at 42, having a baby. Now I'm 50 and I have an 8-year-old plus 3 in college. It is insane. It's crazy. But now that we're kind of caught up and we're at current, now the next episodes are going to be about like current events, talking about kids and menopause, which is insane. And all the other stuff that goes along with it. So I'm so glad that you guys were here, that you learned a little bit about me on these past few episodes. I'm going to start having some guests on, so it should be a good time. And next week will be probably either current events. I know one episode I'm going to dedicate to my baby Haley. but I have to be in the right mindset for that. That's a difficult one. We're gonna have some funny episodes. I want to have the girls on here sometimes, because learning from them growing up and all the things that I did as a mom that they are traumatized for is actually hilarious to hear now, because obviously I was just trying to help. But yeah, so now they're in college. They're amazing. They do come to visit. And we love that. But so that'll be the next episodes. So I'm really excited to do more current stuff. And thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next Saturday.